This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this StockBox interview.
Joining us today is Roland Wessel, the CEO of Synergia Energy, following the publication of the interims and key highlights, including a profit of Australian dollars 10.5 million, which is driven by a one-time gain of Australian dollars 2.5 million from the disposal of the 50% of Cambay PSC interest. Revenue dropping to 156,000 Australian dollars from 353,000 in the prior period, reflecting some reduced production there, and cash increased by 252,000 to 1.2 million Aussie dollars. Well, Roland, thank you for joining us today. How are you? Big interim report out. How are you feeling from some of those key metrics that we've just mentioned?
Well, I think there's a lot of explanation that needs to be done behind the numbers because last year was not a stellar year from a production perspective, but I think we're well set up for this year to start really turning the performance around, particularly on Cambay.
Okay. So is it fair to say you're a little bit disappointed, but optimistic with the future?
Yeah, I mean, we signed our JV with Sealand Exploration on the 14th of February last year, and it's taken us a long time to get the work program up and running. And I should point out that we are not the lead operator. Sealand is the lead operator, so to a large extent, we're beholden to their efforts and their timetable. We've done 2 workovers during the course of last year. They weren't particularly stellar. On the other hand, the expenditure was relatively low. Those were not expensive workovers. The material change to the company will come when we start drilling new wells, and that's something that has taken longer than we had anticipated to get kicked off.
Okay. And is it the placing you did, that 750,000 that was raised recently, is that to help you get to this point and to start drilling some wells and indeed increase the value? Because I understand a few shareholders are probably a little bit disappointed with perhaps the terms of the raise, the price, etc. But how does that raise fit into the bigger picture?
Well, it was necessary to bridge us to the point where we get new production from the wells that are being drilled this year. Okay. I'm not happy with the devaluation of the share price. I think we're significantly undervalued as a company. I actually participated in that share placement, and our strategy is basically to try and ensure that's the last fundraise that we do for the foreseeable future, because we anticipate to get strong cash flow from Cambay. Okay. And we've put a number of actions into place to make sure that that fundraise lasts us for the duration required. Those cost-cutting measures include salary reductions. I'm going on a 50% salary going forward. The non-execs are not taking salary, so we are being very, very assiduous in terms of making sure that we run this company on a very, very low-cost basis. Okay. And the idea is that the funding lasts us a long time until we get the revenue from the new wells on Cambay.
Okay. Well, it's interesting you say that, and that brings me on because a big thing I was picking up on was the director's salaries with revenue around 156,000 there, and I think that between yourself and the CFO receiving 330, I think people were feeling like, how can you justify that? But you're taking these cost-cutting measures to ensure that money takes you through to revenue generation. So that from now point that forward on, that's a significant change then.
Yep, and the non-exec directors are sharing in the pain as well. At the end of the day, we recognize the issues with the company, and we want to get this company into a position where there's strong cash flow coming from Cambay, and that hopefully will then translate into a much increased share price.
Okay, good. So, do you have any leverage that you can perhaps use to expedite the drilling here and move things along a bit quicker?
Yeah, we're using every trick in the book to try and get things moving along.
Okay.
Recently, we identified a suitable drilling rig for the drilling campaign. This had been something that Sealand had been struggling with to secure a drilling rig for the new wells, and we hope to be able to announce a contract for that rig in the very near future.
Okay, well, let's just get a bit of a scene setting on Cambay. So, is it correct that you've got a current well C77H, which is in production? You've got another well C70 that is being worked over, and then you've got plans to drill a new well. So, could you just set the scene of where we are, the status quo now, and what it perhaps looks like over the next 6 months?
Okay, so the main producer has been for the last year the C77H well. This is the well that we refracked a couple of years ago. It's been on plateau production. It's obviously a well in a sort of latter stage of the production life because it's been on production since 2014, but it is providing plateau production. We do plan to work that well over to increase the production tubing size so that we can get the jet pump working more efficiently and boost production. C70 was a well that was worked over. Initially produced a lot of gas. Unfortunately, there's been a water ingress, and that's still under consideration as to whether we're going to do any further operations on C70. We've got a number of legacy wells that produce oil intermittently. So in November, December, we averaged about 30 barrels a day. That's come down a bit, but we hope to be able to boost oil production because that's very useful revenue. And we do have another 2 or 3 wells that we want to work over, but we need a bigger workover rig, a bigger capacity workover rig to do that. So there is a tender that's being worked on right now for a 100-ton workover rig, which again I hope to be able to announce in the near future that we've contracted that rig.
Right. Okay. So that's 2 to 3 workovers that you would hope to get going, and then in terms of sort of drilling for the new well, when's that posted for?
Right now, we're anticipating to be able to start that well in July.
Okay.
And that would be the first of 3 wells.
Okay.
And that we anticipate to be a significant producer. I don't want to give you any sort of numbers because I don't want to make a rod for my own back, but we're pretty optimistic. We've got some good targets for that initial first well.
Okay, so potentially you could be looking at like a different story. Is it fair to say in 6 months plus time, this could be sort of a game changer if this well comes off?
Yes, and again, I apologize to shareholders that it's taken such a long time to get this JV work program into action. But I do stress that we are not the lead operator. It's Sealand, the lead operator, and it's true to say that the rigs in India are pretty busy at the moment. So securing a rig has been a problem. But like I said, we've identified one that we believe is suitable for what we need, and hopefully we can announce a contract for that rig in the near future.
Okay, good to hear. Well, just moving on to the CSS then, the carbon storage here. So from reading the interims there, I understand that the Medway hub has lost harbour energy and perhaps funding remains uncertain. So what's the plan or contingency if a new partner isn't found soon?
Well, we are conducting a farm out process. We've got a number of blue chip companies that are really interested in coming into the project.
Okay.
In the meantime, until we get that partner on board, we've dramatically reduced the spend on CCS to one essential workflow. So we really sort of pared back, and we've got an understanding with the NSTA that the partner needs to be replaced before we can commit assiduously with the work program going forward. And what we're seeking from the new partner is a carry of our costs through to FID.
Okay, right. So that's been sort of scaled back as well. All the focus being really here on the gas element. I mean, just looking at your market cap, then it's about £3.7 million, I think, versus what was in the interims of net assets of 12 million. So I mean, do you think that the share price is effectively undervalued, and what could you do, or what will you do to try and close that gap?
Well, two things. Number one, we won't do any more fundraisers, because every time we do that, it's very dilutive to the share price. And unfortunately, it's been necessary, but we're taking measures so we don't have to do any more fundraisers. And I think the best way to bolster the share price is to demonstrate strong cash flow and profits from our main asset, which is the Cambay gas field.
Okay. And that's the ultimate objective for this year, effectively.
It is, and we are taking some very, very stringent measures to make sure that we turn this around, because it's not a pleasant situation for us. And I understand that there are a number of shareholders that are not happy with the performance, but I do stress that within our powers, we are doing everything we can to progress the work program in India. In fact, like I said, we were the ones that identified this drilling rig. So we've been very proactive and pushing very hard to accelerate the program. And in the meantime, we're going to make sure that the company is healthy and a strong going concern until we get that incremental cash flow. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Roland Wessel, the CEO of Synergia Energy. It sounds like there'll be a fair bit to talk about over the next 3 to 6 months with workovers and indeed the preparation for the all-important drilling. But for now, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.